You know, they'd asked us to tell kind of something funny or something interesting about us. It's a true story, and it's going to freak out Lisa from USAMP a little bit. But when I was little, I wanted to be a clown. Or, there's an or to it. I wanted to grow up to be a clown, or a candy taster, or an inventor. And I'm not a clown. I do enjoy candy, but I'm not like a professional taster. No one pays me to taste their candy, at least not yet. But I do feel like I'm a bit of an inventor. And that's one of the reasons why I love the job that I have right now, and I love the opportunity that mobile has brought us. You get to create and to bring new thinking to our industry and to all of market research, and it's really energizing for me. And I hope that you find some of our case studies and our use cases that we have here energizing too, and you can kind of see how we're using it and how we've committed to mobile. Before I get into my actual presentation, though, I just want to address a couple of the questions that have come up in the networking event last night when I talked to a few people, and also just kind of readdress one of the other questions I was asked of Janine yesterday. So there's a little bit of confusion. Someone had asked Janine, do you do most of your research via app or via mobile web? And I think she interpreted it as, do we have our own app for doing research? And the answer to that is no, we don't. We use other folks' apps, but the bulk of what we've done has been with app. However, we do a fair amount of mobile web too. So I just wanted to clear that up first. And then the second is, everyone said, sunset? You're sunsetting your team? What is going on? I had at least 4 or 5 people, like, actually with some concern in their eyes, like wondering if I was getting canned. I just want to let you know that in our culture, organizational culture, every 2 to 3 years we rotate and we move on. So I will move on to some other new and good and cool thing, I hope. Assuming I don't screw it up. But also, by the time 2014 rolls around, mobile's going to be kind of old news. Everyone will be doing it. Just like we don't have a paper and pencil team. We didn't have a mechanical pencil team when we moved up to those. We don't have an online research team. We won't have a mobile research team. All of our researchers will be doing mobile. So with that said and cleared up, my talk today is about mobile. It's real, not recalled. I'm going to go through some use cases and case studies that we've actually had, and hopefully they kind of help you understand how we're using mobile and some of the open up your eyes as far as some additional potential for things we could do beyond what we've already done. So with that, here we go. One of the kind of biggest uses that we've had in the past 2 years, having gone through the 100-plus projects that we've done, one of the bulk of the work has been, I won't say not the bulk, but a lot of the work has been in-home. The advantages are pretty obvious, but namely is that you're in the moment. You're in that kind of real event with them. And while you're in their home, you have access to a computer in their pocket, as Janine mentioned yesterday and others have along the way. And that computer can do a lot more than just have you answer questions. So we can do ethnographies that are very rich, and I'd call it almost like in 3D, that get us very close to our consumer, via just having UPC scans and understanding what they have in their cupboards and in their refrigerators, photos to help kind of document events, or like while they're cooking or using our products, or just documenting their life so we can understand them in depth. Videos, of course, where they can give us a little confessional to kind of really tell us who they are or introduce us to their family or to where they live. And just audio to quickly capture an open end. Sometimes we found that you can hear the exasperation in people's voices that you just don't get when someone types that out. And some of the key actual uses, so I've got 2 examples that I'm going to share now of things that we have done in-home. The first is an ethnography that we've done around birthdays. And mobile allowed us to do extended set of research about birthdays that we couldn't have probably done otherwise, because if we were to hire an ethnographer and we were to go plunk it down in some kid's birthday party, it probably wouldn't go over very well. But we have a smartphone that's pretty easy to have in mom's hand to get a couple pictures during that. But the way we actually did the whole study is we, over a 5-week period, we recruited people in who are going to have a birthday party in the next 5 weeks, and had them document kind of life as it led up to the actual birthday party. So how do you decide how you're going to what kind of cake you're going to have? How are you going to make a homemade cake? Are you going to make one out of a box? Are you going to get one from a store? Understanding that decision. And then for those of them who are going to bake a cake, show us, how you're going to pick which one you're going to, get the ingredients. And, if you're going to get one in a box, how are you going to pick that brand? What sort of things influence your decision? And then potentially when they go into the store to pick stuff out, we can say, like, hey, you're at the shelf. What's going on there? And then when they get back home, show us how you made that cake, who was involved in making that, who was involved in decorating it, that type of rich data that we get. And of course, we used all these different multimedia to help us bring richness to that study. And finally, you're having the birthday party. We didn't ask them to tape the whole birthday party because that also would be intrusive. But hey, take a picture, you're going to take a picture anyway of your kid blowing out the candles. Just take that picture for us and let us know, let us see kind of how people interacted with that cake. So that was just a natural and easy use, which probably wouldn't have been as rich of data if we'd had someone go on and like log it online or have an ethnographer try and intrude upon your life for a while. And we could do it at scale. So it wasn't just one or two of these. We did a couple dozen, and it wasn't just in one market. We did it across the U.S. So all of those are advantages of mobile via some traditional techniques that might have been used as alternatives. Another example which demonstrates the ability to get a broad reach is we recently did an really quick and easy study across the globe, what's for dinner? And we just captured about 2 or 3 minute videos of people showing us what they're having for dinner and who's eating it and why they chose whatever they had. And we did that across, I want to say, about 8 different markets. And we turned it around in a couple of days. And all of a sudden, we just had a little bit of greater empathy for how people were cooking. And you can just see. You can see a lot about their lives just in those short videos. And by the way, it's is in all sorts of different languages, but we didn't even need to really translate a lot of it because you can just see, the kitchen is very different in this market and here, and you can kind of see that this person's very frazzled and this person's very, very put together and knows exactly what they're eating. So, of course, we did translate stuff and look at it, but you can just that data you get is so rich that you just have inherent advantages, and one of them is a minimal need for translation. Well, especially if it's just a picture, you don't need to translate a picture. Okay, so that's in-home stuff. I also just want to point out that Janine had shared with you that we have a very strong push to move towards mobile. And that means we're moving the bulk of everything that we do for commissioned research over to mobile. And just broadly speaking, consumer research, we do both big and small research. Something that's kind of, to me, mildly humorous is I've sat down with some of my marketing sciences friends, and they will literally say things like, oh, mobile's so cute. It's for polling. You can ask a couple questions. That's great. But I'm going to go and I'm going to use my online stuff to do my big quant. I respectfully disagree. I think, yeah, it's great for polling. Absolutely. It's perfect. But also can be used for big research. That doesn't mean, I want to be really clear, it does not mean that we're going to do a 30-minute piece of research on a phone. But we're going to find creative ways to approximate those larger quant studies with smaller kind of information snacking or mobile snacking. The stuff that was presented yesterday around data stitching and imputation, we have to figure that out. I think the 30-minute survey is dead. I personally, in my opinion, I don't believe data passed about 10 minutes of interview time. That's just my opinion. But, all right. If consumers, if we follow consumers as an industry, very quickly we have to realize that the data that we're getting from online is not as believable anymore. That mobile data is real. It's eliminated or minimized the recall issue, and I just don't know why we wouldn't do it. I have a pretty strong conviction to move very quickly towards mobile. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples how we're doing big and small. So big, just one example. We do a lot of concept testing. We come up with a lot of ideas. Are they good? Are they bad? It's a larger quant method that we use. We've begun to reinvent concept testing. And it used to be that we would show a little concept board. It's like basically a PowerPoint, and here's a picture of our stuff, and it costs $2.99, and you can find it in this aisle, and it's low in sodium, and it's good for your health. It's whole grain. and all these things. Would you buy that? And someone's sitting behind their computer, and it's like, maybe I'd buy that. I'm oversimplifying the questions we'd ask, but now with concept testing, we can make it fit the phone a little bit better and make it a little bit more digestible. And I'll throw a challenge out at the end of this around that. But we can also have them evaluate that concept in context. So when they're better mentally qualified to evaluate that concept. So for example, we put them in aisle and we say, if that product there were available on shelf today, would you buy it? They're already in that purchase mentality, and so they're better qualified to tell you, yes, I would, or no, I would not buy that. And by the way, they can also do some other cool stuff like, and what would that substitute? Go scan that UPC, or go take a picture. Or where would you shelve this? Or what is this most similar to? Some really cool, just very interactive behavioral type of things that they can give us in terms of data beyond just a rating. They can also do it maybe while they're eating. So if this were available for you, if you were to go to your cupboard and go shopping for dinner tonight, and this were available, would you choose this? And if you would choose it, what would it compete against, or what would it replace? If you're eating cereal right now and you had this to eat instead, is that a good idea or a bad idea? So the idea of being a respondent, being a consumer, being better mentally qualified to respond to a concept is something I think shows huge promise for real and mobile as a method. Of course, polling. Great, easy. I call it quick sound checking. Sometimes you don't need a ton of research to make a decision. You just need to inform your gut just a little bit more than it has been in the past. And pulse out a quick poll. It'll come back pretty quickly on mobile. People answer, the response rates tend to come back very fast because they're answering it in little bits of downtime. We don't have to wait quite as long. Online's fast too. So it's not so much the speed, but it's easy to do. There's really no reason not to. 2 or 3 quick questions on a mobile, it works pretty well. I talked about in-home stuff as being one of our popular methods. One of our other extremely popular methods is what I term as store missions. We've worked really closely in this past year, in particular with USAMP on this, using their iPoll app and their mobile panel. And we've been really successful with getting folks in-store to do a variety of missions. Before we even get them into store, though, I want to talk about kind of the 2 ways that we think about getting folks. One I call a pre-recruit and push, which we spec out exactly who we want to get in the store, and we find them, at home, on their couch, so to speak, and we put them through a screener and make sure they're qualified to be our respondent. And then we say, on your next grocery trip or next, trip for food, open up your app, and there will be a mission available for you. Then when they get to the store, they open it up, and if they actually are there, the mission shows up in their app, and it says, okay, here's your mission if you choose to accept it, blah, blah, blah. And here you go, and you'll get XYZ for an incentive. The other way is geofencing. So we just wait for the panelists to walk in and kind of break the fence, and then we do a little bit of screening with them to make sure they're qualified for our mission. We say, would you like to do this mission for us today? You'll get, $3 or whatever it is. Those are the 2 ways. But regardless of how we get them in, our experience has been that you have about 5 to 7 minutes of their time. And this is how I talk about it with my internal clients. Like, you've got 5 to 7 minutes of their time. What do you want to know? They're in the store. And we've dreamed up all sorts of different things. But one example is around findability. So we get them in the store, and we do findability exercises. It's pretty simple. Show them a picture of what we want them to find, or describe it for them. Go find it. They go off and they find it, and once they find it, prove it to us, scan the UPC or take a picture, something to make sure that you actually are holding the thing that we think you should be holding. Now just rate for us, was that easy or hard to find? I don't care about how long it took, actually. For a while, I thought that would be cool to know, but I realized that time doesn't mean as much, because they could have to walk further, whatever. They could be a slow walker. Was it easy or was it hard? And by the way, once they found it, we can then ask some additional questions, like, well, how many aisles did you look in? And we can do all that kind of stuff. But, okay, you found it. Now, do you like it? Would you buy it? Does it look delicious? What would it replace? Those kinds of things. Who would eat it? Real quick things. Remember, 5 to 7 minutes once we've got them. But another nice one is, if you could shelve this anywhere else, where would you put it? Would that be better or worse than your current location? A nice little exercise that we've been able to do. A real true example to kind of bring it home on this one is our Fiber One Chewy line had launched for kids. And it wasn't selling as quickly as we'd wanted it to. And we had people go to the store. We pre-recruited people who had purchased grain or something, grain bars in the past 6 months. Go to the store, and at the front of the store, we showed them a picture of this thing and said, go find it. They eventually did. We had them take pictures of the shelf set and of the box. And then we asked them, hey, what's the deal? What made this hard or easy to find? We found out really quickly that it had a brown box, and it pretty much looked like our flagship line of Fiber One bars. Didn't really differentiate itself well. That data was brought back to our team in Snacks, and it gave them the conviction to act. They could see all those consumer photos, and they could see that it didn't stand out, and they could see that people didn't understand that it was separate from the kind of main line and that it was for kids. And because the data was so believable, it was so real, it was so concrete, they had the conviction to act very quickly. And now it's out there. This happened a while ago, but now it's out there with a white box, and it has kind of a kid feel to the box too. And it's bright colors on top of the white. Super easy. I think if we'd showed up and we'd showed up with some sort of nerdy quant survey that just had X number of people top 2 boxed on this and whatever percent blah blah blah, they might have kind of okay. But this was real, and it was just right there and very believable. In store, also looking at event and display stuff. So being able to have people, sorry, I got distracted. Event and display stuff. When the conference guy starts walking up at you and you wonder like, oh, am I in trouble? Is my mic not working? But, okay, so event and display evaluation. So rather than asking people to sit at home behind their computer and say, if you buy 2 boxes of cereal, get 50 cents off milk, is that motivating to you or not? Have them do that while they're in context. They're better qualified to respond and say, this promotion would be motivating to me. So you're in the cereal aisle. If such and such a promotion were available to you today, would you buy it? Would you act on that? Yes or no? It's just they're better qualified mentally to answer that question. And of course, the more obvious one is go find an actual display. Does it look good? Would you buy something off of this? Take a picture. It also helps us to evaluate compliance. So we pay a lot to get these displays out there. Are they actually getting put up? So we can do that too. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the way that the unexpected hits. So everything that I've talked about so far, I think is just stuff that was obvious to us. We kind of knew we were going to do it for the most part. But I remember vividly the day that one of my coworkers, Ryan Backer, who's actually over here, he called me up and he's like, hey, man, and he always says that, hey, man. Really, he does. You ask him later. He says, hey, man. He even types it in his IMs. Hey, man, I've been thinking, we do these things, we do these store walks. We go out and we take pictures and we email them around, and then we scroll notes down about what we think about it. Is there some sort of app that we could use to kind of automate that and make it simpler and more seamless? And I'm like, duh, yeah. I mean, so we worked with Instantly, which is another USAMP thing, but to just do this, they go out and you take a picture and you write a little tag of what it was that you saw. We put this app on our researchers' phones, and they could just go do that. And as they come in, they just load up into a real-time site, and then they all get back to the office. They can pull it down. Picture A is of something, and it says this looks delicious, and it's just all nice and neatly organized, and it's fast. So previously it would be, okay, everyone email your photos to Ryan, and then let's get all your notes, and we'll try and transcribe them. We'll meet with you next week after we get it all neat and tidy. But now it's just like that. So, and using this app, we've done a lot of stuff with this. But most recently, it's help our researchers build intuition and consumer empathy. So we put it on a lot of our researchers' phones. And this past month, we went out to farmers markets just to see what goes on in farmers markets. What's the trend with fresh? And our researchers, it kind of, first of all, gave them a mission, gave them something fun to do to get them out the door a little bit and out from behind their desks. But it also, we got a lot of different data potentially from hundreds of people. So that was cool. So the question is, we got 5 minutes to think differently, and I just got the 5-minute sign, so my timing is spot on so far. Yesterday you heard 4 things from Janine as far as challenges. I'll reiterate those. Panels. We need panels that we can do research with. We need the industry to get behind this and start using it, because we don't want only every mobile survey out there to be a General Mills survey. Not that it is, but I don't want that to ever happen. It'd be bad for us and bad for you. The other is we need short methods to approximate long methods. I love the stuff that Gongus has started doing with data stitching and data imputation. I want to see a lot more of that to help us do those long things. She talked about new tech to help us, creative new uses of technology. There's all these new things on phones. I'm not really sure how we're going to use all of them. There's things that are going to be unexpected, things that aren't obvious, things that we couldn't do before. She challenged us to do that. The fourth thing that she mentioned was technology to help us digest large volumes of qualitative data. What the heck do I do with 8,000 pictures? She gave the example of 300. I had a real study where I had 8,000 pictures. I mean, woe on me for thinking that was a good idea to get that many, but boy, it would be nice if we could actually do something with them rather than look at 8,000 pictures. I'm going to add on, just kind of that this isn't, I'll reiterate, though, personally, that this isn't about lift and shift. But it's also not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We have good, solid methods that have been well-developed over time. I just want to find creative ways for us to address those. Always come back to the business question. Don't just say, I'm going to take an ANU, I'm going to move it to mobile. Think, what was that ANU built to do? What was it supposed to do? What was the business question? Are there ways that we can use mobile to answer that business question differentially? There's new stuff. I mean, she talked about creative uses for new tech, but there's new stuff coming out. I don't even know how it's all going to come together, but we got NFC, and we've got virtual wallet as part of that potentially. We've got phones that sense temperature and humidity and steps taken, and this quantifiable self and wearable tech. Let's see how we can pull that all together. One of the things that dawned on me, and I'll just kind of throw it out there for whomever to take on, but it feels like in the 2000s we got hog wild about sample size. It's an online survey. Sure, we'll do 1,000 of them. Great, that's awesome. I think we just kind of built ourselves into a bad habit of not only too long of research, but worrying too much about huge sample sizes. Does mobile, I don't know the answer to this, does mobile, because it's more real, provide data that is worth more? Are 100 real observations worth more than 400 radio buttons clicked? Can we revisit the need for sample sizes to be so huge? Can we believe that mobile data is so much more that our sample sizes don't need to be as large? And part of that brings me to kind of my last point, which is looking across the industry. So I have vetted 100-plus suppliers at this point, and I've seen this conference grow and build. I still haven't seen the strongest marketing science behind what we're doing just yet. Some of our biggest players out there haven't, our biggest marketing sciences brains haven't come forward with the rock-solid thinking on stuff. I just want to see more of that. I want to see white papers that actually have some real oomph to them, and our bigger brains start thinking about it. Just how comfortable are we with the data that we're getting from mobile? How comfortable are we with these new methods? What are some new methods that we can do? And the biggest one's still out there. I mean, I thought it's people are beginning to answer it, but it's the whole imputation and stitching, those kinds of things, chunking surveys in an intelligent way. So with that, I just want to say that, yeah, mobile's real. It's not recalled. Always come back to the business question as we transform. And I'll just also say the same thing that Janine said. We're really comfortable with mobile. We're swimming, the water's warm, and we want everyone else to come on in. That's all I got.
Thank you very much, Andy. Some really great nuggets in there. Then, who's got questions in the audience for Andy? Just before I take this first question, some of you have probably noticed already the internet's not working. So apparently the hotel Wi-Fi has gone down, and we'll let you know when it's back up and running.
So Andy, great job. I was just wondering, I'm going to pose the same question I've asked before, which is, where do you think, I mean, wearable, it's sort of the new thing. Where do you think this can help folks like you, corporate researchers?
There's a wealth of data that's being collected through that. I'm not sure what I would do with that data just yet. We want to have a high degree of understanding of our consumer and of our shopper, and to the extent that that data can help us, wonderful. People are recording very rich data all the time right now. Are they going to be willing to give it to us? And if they do give it to us, do we really need it? I mean, there has to be a nice intersection of that. Like, doesn't matter to me how many steps I took today, as a researcher. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But if it helps build out a picture and helps us make a better decision or make a better product for our consumer, absolutely. We want to see how we can incorporate that.
Any more?
To the point about the studies on mobile, how do you see that coming about? I mean, because we're the association that does mobile, and we've just recently engaged Todd Powers from ARF World to take that on as a task. So we're looking for people who might want to engage in doing studies on mobile, right? Mm-hmm. How would you see prioritizing those kinds of studies? What's the biggest need you have to get the white papers or to see some scientific methodology around this?
Well, I mean, I mentioned the first one, which is just more work on imputation and chunking. Hot decking is great, but there's some other methods that should be explored as well. I also mentioned the thing around sample size. I mean, really, that's just falling out of my brain. I don't have any reason to believe that other than it's just my gut tells me that there's something maybe there to be explored. Basically the power in more believable or data with higher worth. I'd love to see some stuff around that. Take a look at some of our classic methods, some of the ones that you think are the hardest ones, the hardest fish to fry, and figure out how we would answer that same business question with mobile. And it's not taking that method and going and pushing it into a mobile phone. It's taking that method and saying, what was it answering? And can we take some of the key pieces out of it and still do that to help us answer that same question? But can we also use some of that other stuff that we might be able to get from mobile to bring it along and bring it up to life?
Any more questions?
I'm just wondering where you think in-person research fits into all of this. Is it going to be eventually a thing of the past? We won't need it anymore? Or do you see a use for it still?
There's still going to be use for it. I mean, you're never going to... You look someone in the eyes in person and you learn a lot more than you might through any sort of screen. I mean, there's a distance that doesn't exist when you're there in person that does exist even with mobile. I mean, granted, it's in your pocket, it's close to you, it's within 3 meters all the time, all those great things, but there still is a distance there. I mean, you can't see you can't smell the dinner cooking when you're not there in person. So there's always going to be a role for it.
So how big were your samples? How many people were you using?
I've done studies with an N of 8, and I've done studies with an N of, I think at our top end, we have one that's around 3,000. So all over the board. Typical on kind of like a store mission, we're doing 200, 300 people. So.
Well, thank you very much, Andy. Thank you.
Thanks.